All right. Hello, everybody. This is Don here. Welcome to Tribe Talk. Tribe Talk is dialogue with coaches and hopefully some candidates to enhance communications and help develop an improvement culture, sharing the experiences and ideas for improvement of our tribe. The tribe is a group of like-minded people who have more in common than they have differences, and hopefully your curiosity brought you into the tribe and motivates you to help us make it better. This is an independent event and truly not sponsored by any one organization, regardless of the participants. The one simple motive is improvement. As an integral part, we want to improve as model rider coaches with more depth education and learning abilities than we ask of our students. So first thing I need to cover are house rules. If you give me a second, I'll pop up this slide. A few virtual conferencing etiquette things here. If you're not speaking, please keep your microphone muted so that we can keep the noise down. Please participate. And if you haven't played around with Zoom a little bit more, somewhere on your screen is a little blue hand that you can raise if you'd like to talk or jump in if things get really busy. Remember that you can also text your questions in the Zoom conference area, or if you're on Facebook, we have a couple great monitors, Rita and Matt, that will pass the information along and speak for you if you can't yourself or wish not to. For your first comment, if you're jumping in, please let us know who you are and where you're from. That helps everybody get to understand and know you a little bit better. And when you're speaking, remember you're not speaking to the facilitator or the group. I'm sorry, the facilitator, you're speaking to the group, just like in a BRC or any other class that we may do. If you have technical difficulties while you're in the chat or in the Tribe Talk room, please go ahead and jump off and come back in, and we'll move on to the next thing. Our topics today, we have Nicole Byron and Dennis Phillips helping us out with icebreakers. Alan Wood is helping us on range exercise number 4, and we have the cool additional topic of having Ask Ray from Training Systems here to answer your questions towards the end. So with that, what I would like to do is stop sharing. Since there's a lot of new people in here tonight, we're going to try to use the Zoom group chat or Facebook. And as kind of an icebreaker, I want you to think about who was your biggest hero who challenged you to improve and be better. And when you have that, chat, do a private chat, or you can throw it out there in public to 2 separate people who that person is. So that's the initial task to get us going. And while we'll do that, Dennis and Nicole will be preparing for their session. So quickly chat with somebody, get to know them, and share your hero. When you're finished with this task, go ahead and raise up your hands or give us a thumbs up that you've completed. Okay, starting to see a few hands come up. Thanks, Josh. Gary. A lot of great names of great rider coaches being mentioned in the chat box. Tony Ritchie from Rhode Island, Don Raines from Tulsa, Hoot Gibson, JK from Maine, Jillian from Fort Lauderdale, welcome. Jeff Pittenger, John Scala, both from St. Louis. Got a Mark Parko on here. Rita, Jim Whitehair, their dad. That's awesome. Like that one. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on. And with this, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Dennis and Nicole for icebreakers.
Okay, sorry.
Hey everybody, hope everybody's doing well this evening and glad you could join us for Tribe Talks. And just looking for some ideas about what do you use at the beginning of your class to break the ice with your students, to help them relax and get them in a good mood to participate. So take it away. Oh boy.
Oh, okay. Well, for me, the number one thing is to break the ice is just be yourself. Just talk to your students as you would want to be talked to yourself. Treat them like an individual and don't overdo it with your expertise. Stay down to their level. That's the main thing, and treat them like you would want to be treated.
Anyone else?
Yeah, this is Colin Piper from Woburn, Massachusetts. Very similar to what was just said. I think also be relaxed, because if you are relaxed, you'll help the students be relaxed. If you're tense, they will sense that tension and pick it up. So be relaxed, be ready to enjoy it, make it fun.
Very good, Colin. Yep, absolutely.
The other thing that I think is important when you're trying to break the ice is have your class prepared. Be prepared for everything as your students come in, and it makes it easier for you to be relaxed, to enjoy your students.
Yeah, if you got your two instructors in the classroom, you know, at my facility, we are always kind of just joking around, having a good time. So when the students come in, they see us having a good time and they know they're in for a good time as well.
Hey, if we want to share our experience, you want us to raise our hand, or how do you want to do that?
Raise your hand and chime in, that's fine.
I don't know how to raise my hand, so you just chime in. How about that?
All right, Stephen Parsons here. I'm in Ohio now, but I was at Ramstein for the last couple years. And what I always did, I only taught military individuals. So when they came in and we did our introductions, I made sure that everyone knew that it was a first name basis, and it was, it wasn't a military class. So we made it more personal and shared our experiences and just our how long we've been riding, the normal stuff, and kind of made some jokes in there just to ease the class. And it seems to have been worked out pretty well so far. So that's what I'm probably going to continue to do. We'll see how it goes with civilians.
Great.
I'll go ahead and chime in here. Eric Seidensticker from Indianapolis. One of the things that I picked up in the RCPW is to immediately get them involved by engaging them with tasks. We've got a few forms to fill out for MSF. But I think getting them engaged immediately, getting them talking with their co-writers, and making it conversational makes it easy for everybody to get involved from the get-go. And I think that's key, is getting everybody talking, because our goal is a learner-centered engagement, and that's how we go about it.
Good, Eric.
I was going to say one other thing is, as you're doing small talk, everybody's walking in, you kind of have a little bit of excitement about you. You're doing the small talk, but you're also starting to gauge what type of learner the student might be or what some of their tendencies are as we're grouping them up or trying to figure out what's the best way to reach each student. I just use it as an opportunity to start to kind of pick up on mannerisms or some different characteristics of the student.
Yep, very good.
Okay, Josh, barely understand you.
Sorry, is it the microphone or is it my Massachusetts accent?
It's that math. It's that math accent.
Carrie, I see your
Oh, I
blue
love
hand
it.
is still up. Do you have something to share, Carrie?
No, I didn't know I had to put my hand back down. I apologize.
Yeah, I really agree with you, Josh. I do the same thing. I spend those first few minutes trying to assess each person because each one is individual and each one is different. And sometimes during the introductions, I will actually sit down at one of the tables with the students as opposed to being at the head of the room like I'm one of them, and keeping it, starting that team kind of environment.
Yes,
Very good.
that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Being part of the group and not be the individual overlooking them. Yes. So important.
Jillian, I love that. It's great. Great to hear. I try never to even mention anything about me and motorcycling or any experience that I have when we start classroom. I don't think it's relevant at that time, or any time actually.
If they want to talk about things like that, I say, well, wait until after class and we can talk privately, and that usually works too.
Jeff also shared in the comments, Jeff Way did, that he said, I try to find out from them something that has nothing to do with motorcycling and learn a little bit more about who they are.
Yes, and that's very important because, I mean, if you're not getting to know your students personally, on a personal basis, then you don't really know how to react to them a lot of times.
This is Vermillion from Kansas. We do the same thing. A lot of small talk when they come in. We joke around a little bit when we're doing introductions that they get a paper cut. I've got a first aid kit here on the shelf. We can fix your boo-boo and move on. Just a lot of that social interaction, getting to know them as they walk in the classroom, where they work, what they do for a living, things like that. And it helps them get a little bit relaxed. And we've got jokes all day long. So we let them know here, hey, we're here all weekend. You didn't pay extra for the jokes. So it chills them out a little bit.
There you go, Mike. Good job.
This is Tim from Durham, North Carolina. What I find important is to meet them at their door. Welcome them to the class, get each one of them to say their name, and then as you get comfortable, remember everybody's name in the room and introduce them to the rest of the class. And that way you start to learn their names better and you get to learn the whole class's names. And they feel more comfortable because they know somebody else in the class's name.
Good.
And this is Alan from Tennessee. Something we threw out in the QASEC world is relatively new acronym. We call it SELF, S-E-L-F, safe, effective, learner-centered, fun. And those are the key four acronyms or four items you keep in play at all times. And the more fun you can make it, the more they're engaged, the more they actually learn. And obviously keeping it learner-centered and being able to accomplish the L and the F while still doing the S and the E. Try and keeping that in mind. And that's one of the newer acronyms we threw out there in QASEC. I kind of want to push that out.
This is Mark in Arizona. for years I've been having the students pair up and interview each other, and then so they get to introduce somebody else to the class rather than introducing themselves. And just in the last couple of weeks, with our not being able to use shared equipment among the students, instead of just having a pile of stuff on the table, things like Post-it notes, I've been setting them out at each place. And a couple of weeks ago, it occurred to me that the different colors of Post-it notes were exactly half of what the students were. So I distributed Post-it notes around the class, and then after everyone as they were arriving, they would pick a spot, and then I would tell them they have to find the person whose Post-it note color matches their own, and then interview that person. And of course, they had a Post-it note to write stuff down, and of course, we have the script that's on the slide, but then I usually have them ask a few other things like favorite food or favorite movie, something like that, to get some additional information. But this way, it kind of randomizes the class when they frequently show up with somebody, one person or maybe multiple people that they already know. This gets them to meet somebody else in the class that they usually don't know, because I made sure that the colors were spread across the classroom instead of next to each other.
Breaking up the group, not allowing, trying to get people who are in groups to associate with other people.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
To increase the interaction among the class, throughout the class, rather than having them stay in the clique they came in with.
Right.
Yeah, we did that with candy bars. That's fun. Anyone else?
All right, Alan, how's that exercise 4 coming along?
Well, we're 22 minutes into it, so we're almost done. About 10 minutes left.
Oh.
All right, has anybody got anything else to say about how they break this? It's all been some very good ideas and thought processes used there, so that's what we want to hear here.
Here.
You're here.
You're here. Cheers.
Take it away, Alan.
Alrighty. So we're going to spend some time now talk about exercise 4. Similar to a couple weeks ago, we talked about exercise 8. 4 is one of those exercises where, of the 3 or 4 that have come up over and over in quality assurance. So we thought I'd spend a little time on it, make sure people understood it, answer questions, ask questions, and kind of get a general feel out there, and try and do a deeper dive into the knowledge of it. So with that said, I posted some things up in the Facebook section a little while ago. Let me toss up the screen chat right there. Okay, you should be seeing the screen now. Everybody see it?
Yep.
All right, good. So typically we break an exercise into these 6 areas, and you see these fair amount, especially within the quality assurance world. So I kind of use that model to kind of drive this conversation a little bit. And what I'm going to do is probably talk a little bit, ask a bunch of questions, get some feedback from you guys. You guys can ask questions whenever you want, throw it out there. We're going to try and stay with like demonstrations and SP demos. We'll stay with those topics, but as we get into coaching, positions, technique, range management is all going to flow together at that point. So we'll try and gauge our questions and conversations around those areas. So let's start out. So shifting and stopping, the demonstration for this. And I've got a plethora of stuff at my fingertips here, from the range cards to some diagrams, even got the compact range diagram, so we can bring all that stuff together. We talk about demonstrations. We begin the demonstration, right? Obviously, the coach has started the staging area. We've read the objectives, gone through that process, and they're going to lead a stage and go in the clutch control lane. And that's going to be my first question to you guys. How do they pass through this clutch control lane when they come to the starting point? Anybody?
Too fast.
Too fast. Okay, how fast should they go through there? Let's put it that, maybe.
Student speed.
What's that?
Student speed.
Student speed, right.
A
Okay.
good novice speed. A good novice speed.
Yeah. So
what our proper riding demo should show us.
there you go. So they're going to leave here. They're going to pass through the clutch control lane. And let's ask the question, how fast does a student go through that? Do they ever go through here, just ride right through, not on purpose?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And when they're riding it right, they always go through here. They never are supposed to go through here at, ride right straight through. They're always supposed to use this as a proper clutch control lane. So you think about that as a rider coach, you should never pass through here without going through a clutch control speed.
No.
So that being said, in these corners here, this area that I've got highlighted, how long should that take you as a coach?
I have somebody on Facebook, Chris says between 5 and 6 seconds per lane.
Nice, 5 and 6 seconds per. Okay, good. You should just slow ride this, Michael?
No, that wouldn't be a novice speed.
Right. Yeah, if they try and do this in 1 minute, it won't work well. So right, exactly what we just heard on Facebook, 5 to 6 seconds per this is, maybe 4 to 6 seconds is roughly what they're trying to go. If they go too slow, this is the first time going through this clutch control line, they're going to have issues. If they go too fast, then they're really not working the clutch very well. They're not getting the practice. So you as a demo should try and run through this 4 to 6 seconds per section. So good. All right, and then they come through here. Now, as they come down through this area, they stop, the coach is talking. What is important to demonstrate as they accelerate, then shift, and then decelerate? Somebody walk me through that. What is important here?
Separating your shifting, making it slow so they understand that you're shifting.
Okay,
Your
good.
gears together, separating it.
Good. Anything else?
Releasing the clutch lever.
At what point? After they shift up or shift down?
After they shift up.
Oh.
Okay. Right. So you're doing a good shift up, nice and slow, separating the movements, right? Why do we separate the movements in there?
To help them understand that they should be separating until they get that full muscle memory.
Right. We're kind of helping them. We're exaggerating that a little bit and separating them out, giving them a chance to see the different pieces and understand them. And now when they shift down, when the coach shifts down as they come to a stop, how should they do that?
Keeping the clutch squeezed.
The clutch squeezed in, yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, they squeeze it in as they come to a nice smooth stop. Where should their front tire stop?
In between the cones.
Yeah, right in that area, right next to that coach, right? Okay, good. How about the path of travel through this perimeter turn here?
Middle.
Middle. Beautiful. Okay, good. So you've got all the components of a good demo going on there. The only question I would ask then next is when are you done with your demo?
When you get back to the staging area.
Okay. Is there a set number of times you've got to go around this figure eight?
No, usually when I've done both sides, then when I head back to staging area, that's the end of the demo.
Okay. Right, as long as you got a good complete path of travel, right? Do you ever have to do any more?
If the students ask questions, yes.
Ah, there you go. Right, if the students need it, you might have to do another one. So it might put you in a different spot. Okay. So then when you stage this, let me ask that question. How would you stage this? Right now, I mean, this is as a demo stage, not as a...
At the end of the exercise?
Nope, it's a demo rider. So let's say you've finished it, you've ended up right back here. How are you going to stage? Where are you going to go when you stage? What comes after staging and stopping this demo? What's the next thing you do?
Simulated practice.
Simulated practice.
Right. So where are you going to park your bike? You're going to park it in the middle of all the lines here? Or might you go someplace different? Where do you guys do your simulated practices from?
We do them all in the staging area.
Yeah, the last bike in.
Last bike in. Okay, so you're having them walk up. So then this is more of a, there's no set place. Just you have to communicate that with your partner coach where you're going to do things and how you're going to do it, right? So good communication. Any questions on the demo? Anything from the comments or Facebook?
One small comment, Sarah Kretschmar here from
Sure.
Wisconsin. I always make sure that whoever's doing the demo, whether it's myself or the other rider coach, that we make a complete stop when we come back around to this start gate before heading on to the staging when we're demoing it.
Yeah. And what should you do? You make a stop there, right?
Right.
Do you know whether your demo is done or not as a rider?
As the rider, no, but as the rider coach doing the demo, we make sure that whoever is not doing the demo shows the students the staging signal.
Nice. Good. Good. Yeah. Right. So they come to a stop maybe here or over the other side. They
Yeah.
look down the range at the other rider coach and they wait for the staging signal and they kind of wonder. That's nice. That's good. Okay.
I'd also add, this is Lynn from New York, I'd also add that while the demo is happening and the coach is stopping at those start gates, I like to mention, notice that he's got the handlebars squared as he's stopping. You know, just as to help reinforce that, because that's a place where, you know, history has shown sometimes people tip over getting back online.
Yeah, there you go. Nice. Yeah, I was going to get to that one next is talk about notes and evaluation, but you've stepped into there, so let's go there. Actually, before we go there, let's not go there yet. Let's talk about this. So, whoa, hello, too big. Compact range. Anybody run with a compact range here?
Yes.
Yes, I sure do.
Yeah. What's a big thing that you got to do differently?
We have to do the reversal.
Yeah. Right. So you've got to complete a reversal and come back in line. So yours looks a little different. But fundamentally, is it any different than that?
No.
Okay. So note to everybody who's kind of looked out here, if you don't know, you'll see I've got digital copies of lots of things, even the notes and narratives from the compact range sitting here. So those that don't know those exist, they're on RETS.org, and you can download them. They're in the re-erp area. So, you know, and there's some nuances here about every exercise, just about, that are important to know, along with the range diagrams. So, just a sidebar.
Yeah, the only drawback to having this exercise 4 this way is we are allowed to have 11 students on our range, and they end up sitting in line a lot longer and not getting as many reps as they would if it was on a full-size range for exercise 4.
Oh, so you've got a long, narrow range, huh?
Yeah, it's a 230 by 90.
Okay. Yeah. Yep, that's more of a challenge.
I'm with you, Jillian. We had the same problem. It's
So when
one of those things you have to make sure a new rider coach doesn't talk too much or the students melt during the summer.
Yeah, right. That's what I was going to say. Is when we get to the coaching area, there'll be some specific items we got to talk about with that.
It's not only new rider coaches that talk too much.
That is true.
Yeah. Hey, Al, this is Mike in Connecticut. One of the nice things about having a compact range and 2 rider coaches is that the clutch control lanes are supervised for most of the exercise.
Oh, there you go.
There's a lot more additional coaching now.
Right. So we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the coaching positions here and there. When let's talk a little bit about that secondary coaching position for the compact range in just a minute. Let's hold off on that. Let's jump to the reading of the notes and narratives and the evaluation points, not notes and narratives, but the evaluation points of this exercise. You know, obviously you've got some items in here you should pay attention to. You know, your evaluation items, right? You know, tell me what that looks like when that other rider coach is riding around the range and doing their demo. Kind of how are you doing the reading of the evaluation? Somebody throw some information out there.
I try to synchronize key evaluations that occur as the rider is doing the demo.
That's excellent. Good. That's specifically what we're looking at. That's perfect. Anybody else do anything different?
I have a question from Facebook, Al.
Sure. Mike, Matt?
Matt, yeah.
Yep.
Does everyone start the demo from the staging side? And that's from Teresa.
From the staging side or from staging?
It says from the staging side, so I guess it's the near side, far side thing.
Yeah.
Which side should the demo start from? That's my guess.
I mean, the staging area doesn't have to be on
Which
one
side
spot.
of the range do you demo first, far side or near side?
Right. Great question. Anybody want to comment?
Depends where the students are.
I like doing the near side because it allows for the students to see what's actually being introduced in this exercise up close. Because I have the students standing at the rider coach position at the stop point on the end.
We do the near side. This is Lisa from Tulsa. And we do the near side because that's the way we want the students to run it, so that there's always a coach on the other side when you get to that side.
Okay. Okay. Is there any reason to, is there anything wrong with doing the far side first? But not really.
This is Carla from Illinois. Near side is better because that's where your students typically are.
Well, you're going to split them hopefully 50-50, depending, unless you're on a compact range. But they will probably come down the near side first because the other coaches still got to finish his work and get down the other side. So I think the general consensus is near side, but there's no strict rule that says they can't. You know, Ray, you want to add anything to that, or? It's my cell phone.
Well, I'm good.
Okay. All right. So, you know, one of the things about notes and narratives, and not notes, I keep saying notes and narratives, evaluation points, is does anybody go out there kind of do a narrative conversation? Okay, now he's going around the perimeter curve. Now he's going to go through the clutch control lane, and he's going to come back over here. Anybody do a lot of that, or anybody have any feelings about that?
I do. I believe that it's good for the students to hear that narrative on one repetition at least, but if you keep doing it, it might distract from the visual learning part of the experience for some students. They just need to think about it as they see it and not hear somebody else's words distracting their thinking.
Okay.
I agree with that. I believe that I don't focus so much on the path of travel because we can remind them that throughout the exercise, wanting them to focus on the clutch control lane as well as the shifting, the main objectives.
Okay.
Also, things like keeping head and eyes up, you know, especially in the clutch control lanes, you know, not looking down at the lines, but looking beyond, looking ahead.
Right. Is there any risk with giving too much narration along with the evaluation points?
Overcoaching.
Overcoaching, right. You're losing the forest for the trees. So they may miss the evaluation because they're too busy listening to everything you're giving them. So think about that, and just be careful of it, that you're not doing that. You can give them some. There are points when you want to, you know, maybe give them a little nudge here and there, but just don't overdo it.
Sometimes I'll even tell them, I'm going to shut up. I want you to listen. They can hear, you know, what the motorcycle's engine's noises that it's making or not making. And that can be helpful as well.
There you go. Yep, good. Okay, any other comments? Or we'll make it the jump to coaching positions. What is next? Oh, that's next. We're going to talk about simulated practice and SP demos. All right, let's go there first. So the simulated practice demo, we've come off the range. We've done our demonstration. We've stopped in the clutch or the staging area or somewhere nearby it, near the students, and we're going to give them a good stage. So where should the students be for the simulated practice demo?
Close to you.
Close to you. What do they need to see?
Oh, no closer than 6 feet.
Need to see your feet, right? They need to
No
see the shift.
closer than 6 feet. Thank you.
That's right. And they got to stay 6 feet apart, so they got to scatter around the range. So, right. So what items do they need to see? They got to see your clutch lever. They got to see your throttle, maybe. They got to see your shift. They got to see your brakes. So they got to get in a position where they can see the key components of the SP demo. So maybe to the front.
I usually like to have them standing in front of me or to my left side to see the proper controls from that point of view.
Okay, good. Yep, that's a good spot. Okay, now, so wait, somebody kind of walk me through it. What key things are we doing in the simulated practice demo?
We want to give them the separated shift sequence. So clutch in, shift up, roll off and squeeze the clutch, shift up, ease out the clutch and roll on.
Okay, good. Okay, that's the first part of the SP demo. What's the second part?
I'll let someone else go for that.
Yep, let somebody else go. That's good. Anybody else? We're coming to a stop.
Down. If you shift it up, you got to shift down, right?
Right. Yeah, basically squeeze, press.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Or roll off, squeeze, press. All right. And then what do you do? What's the key thing with the squeezing of the clutch?
We want to keep the squeeze.
Keep the squeeze, right. And then come to a stop. Good. Okay. So that's it pretty much, right? Check for understanding, put them on their bikes and have them do the simulated practice. Anything special you need to do about simulated practice that's different than what we just did in the demo?
Well,
I
Al,
always
you got
tell
to-
them to go ahead.
I was going to say, you just have to make sure that if the demo was done properly, you also tell your students that the feet are on the ground, both feet
There
are on
you
the
go.
ground.
That's
So that this way that it actually shifted the motorcycles.
right. And your demo should be that way also, right? Otherwise, what do we risk? The domino effect of motorcycles in the staging area.
Tipping over one at a time.
Okay. All right.
If
So,
I may
oh,
quick.
go ahead.
One of the things that I do when to signify the importance of the feet on the ground is I'll, like, as I stop, I'll tap both my feet on the ground so they actually look at my feet, that they're on the ground, showing the significance. I do that for every stop where they're supposed to be stopping. I stop and I tap my feet on the ground so they actually see, all right, this is where I stop.
Okay. Good. All right.
I think I just like to add that I think sometimes coaches, especially maybe newer coaches, they get wrapped up in the narration of the simulated practice and they forget to evaluate and coach, because not all the riders are going to do it right. They might need to have made and synchronization and stuff like that. They might need a hand with that.
Right. So this is a big one where you should check with your students to make sure each one's doing it respectively well before you stop it.
Yeah.
There you go.
So I finally found Ian Dimmick down at Fort Bragg. Rider coach was Steven, and Mr. Green or Donald, he mentored me for a while.
I'm sorry.
You're sorry? yeah, Don. That's it. Okay, hang on just a second. Sorry, I'm playing with my kids too at the same time as they're getting ready to go to bed. Anyway, something that we do too, or I've done that I think is crucial, and obviously overcoaching is something that we don't want to do, but explaining to them real world scenario why they are actually doing these things, because some of the riders are just doing it and they get lost in why they're actually doing it. But for them knowing, hey, if you're at a stop sign, this is what you're going to do. If you have to, power out of a situation because a car's screeching in behind you, this is why you're in first gear, or you shifted down. The reason why your foot's on the ground, the correct foot, not your shifter foot. You're obviously, your shifter foot and your brake foot's on the rear brake still. So just one foot's on the ground, not both. But I know we're talking about BRC1 now instead of BRC. Just giving them a real world scenario on why they're doing these actions, I think is helpful during the course.
Okay, good.
And so one of the things that I like to do is I like to do the simulated practice at least twice and do it slowly the first time. But the second time you do it quicker, so it's at a more of a real speed of what they should be doing.
Okay. Good. All right.
And in that simulated practice, talking about the real world example, I like to say, okay, I'm at a stoplight. The light turns green. I'm ready to pull away in first gear. I roll on some throttle, ease out the clutch. I'm pulling away. I need to go faster. So I basically talk through the simulated practice demo in a real world scenario, and then, okay, now I'm approaching another light. It's turned to orange. I need to slow down and stop. So again, putting it into a real world scenario, but making sure that the sequence is clear.
Okay. So what's the main purpose of a simulated practice? Anybody out there?
Simulated practice for the students,
Yeah.
muscle memory.
Okay.
Introduce a new skill with less threat.
Introduce a new skill with less threat. Okay.
And then also showing them the correct way with how to do it, not only so they can physically, see it and physically go through the motions.
Right. So there's some key things were said there. Introducing a new skill. And I like the less threat part too. That was kind of cool. But this is, if you introduce that new skill while they're riding down the range, you begin to increase this, have a little higher safety risk going on there. So this is a safe way to introduce a new skill. If you, and I don't want to criticize too much of the guys that were talking about doing stories and things like that, if you add a whole bunch more to it than just the new skill, it's kind of an overcoaching, right? You've kind of lost the forest for the trees again. You're trying to deliver the message of just the new skill. You don't want to give too much into it. Just the new skill. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Squeeze, roll off, squeeze, lift, ease out, roll on, roll off, squeeze, press, ease the brake on. Boom, 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 done. Obviously slower than that, separating everything out. But that's pretty much it.
You got to keep it simple, I think.
Yeah.
May I be a dissenter?
Of course. I've got Ray on my side, though.
I don't necessarily agree with using real world scenarios.
Oh, I see. Okay.
At this stage of the game, I think we need to focus on the basic physical skills of riding. And I don't think we need to introduce stop signs and other vehicles and all those other types of things. I think they should be focusing purely on the physical skills on day one. Now, day two, we can start, when we start to put things together, then we can start calling it real world. But on day one, I don't really believe in using real world scenarios to discuss the things they're doing. I want them to focus on the physical skill they're performing.
No, I think you're absolutely correct. The only reason I brought up the real world scenarios because I physically have experienced riders are asking questions like, why are we doing this? And I have to explain to them, or I want them to understand, you're doing this because if you were in this situation, this is how you would react. If you want to stop, these are what you need to do. If you want to shift, this is what you need to do. And incorporating a real world scenario, although it is distracting, was the easiest way for me to get that through to them at the time. But I agree with what you just said. They need to focus on those specific skills instead of detracting them or distracting them with another idea.
Okay, good. I think we're ended up in a good spot where we want to minimize distractions and focus just on the new motor skill that they're.
Al, somebody from Facebook said less is more.
Less is more. Okay, good. All right, so let's move past simulated practices. Let's get into coaching technique, coaching positions. So let's take a quick look at the coaching positions in this. Where am I? Where is it? Let's go this one. Ha. All right, so coaching positions. Obviously, we're going to start things out. They're going to go down the middle of the range, and we've got this coaching position here. Tell me the end of the range to the end of the clutch control range. What's that what's that coaching position used for? Why is that there?
Directing traffic, Alan.
Okay, directing traffic.
Loading up the range in a balanced fashion.
Okay, loading the range in a balanced fashion. Let's go there. You said directing traffic and loading the range in a balance. Which side do you load first? You decide load the staging side?
Between the coaches.
Okay. Does the rider coach guide give you any nudges as to that, maybe?
Near side.
Near side.
Yep. Yeah. Sent from stage clutch control and first half of the class is directed to the near side. That's, not mandatory, but why would we do that? Why would we push ourselves to the near side first? Why keep losing that diagram?
Probably because the other coach needs to get to the other side and to the stop area.
Right. Yeah. Allows this line over here to begin to ride a little sooner while this coach is doing his work in the clutch control lane and going out. What's important to know as you release riders into this range or into the clutch control area, what's important to know as you release the riders out of the staging area? What's going to happen here in these clutch control lanes?
They're going to bunch up if you're not watching.
Yeah, they're going to stack up. So, right. So these, whoever's releasing them, has got to keep an eye on that and plan accordingly, right?
Right.
So we talked about one reason that this coach is there for directing traffic. What's the other reason?
Coaching the clutch control lane.
Coaching the clutch control lane, right. What technique of coaching would they be doing? Verbal, nonverbal? Throwing tennis balls?
Nonverbal.
Nonverbal.
Did you say throwing tennis balls?
I did. Throwing cones, yeah, no. Right, yeah, nonverbal. So, right, because they're obviously a bit of a distance away here, and they really are not going to be able to do a verbal well, and you don't want to do the verbal because they're in motion. So let's bounce over to this. So where we saw that coach at the end of the range there is also now here if they're coming out of the staging area coming into this. That's where the coaching position is. So they're no longer at the end of the range, right? They're a little bit alongside of that clutch control lane. Are they going to have any different technique?
Yeah, they can add verbal with the head and eyes up.
Okay. What's the risk of adding verbal?
Distracting.
If you've got a rider coming down through here.
The rider might turn their head, which isn't what they should be doing in the clutch lane.
Yeah, they tend to look at you, right? And if they look at you and they're in the clutch control lane and they're barely crawling, what might they do?
They're going to come right for me.
Go where they're looking.
Go where they're looking, start to wobble. So you got to be careful with that with the verbal part of this because you might introduce risk. And that's something we don't want to do. So so this is the same kind of thing. This coach is kind of mainly going to be nonverbal. If they're nonverbal, what are they, they're going to probably have to focus farther down the range to coach, like as they're coming through this clutch control lane when they're coaching them, because they got to be able to get them in front of them in a sense, right? So, all right, so we talked about that coaching position. Do we need to talk about this one? Does everybody kind of know what that person does in life? Let's go to someplace in here, that one. All right, so let's go to the favorite one. That one there. When is that coaching position used?
After everybody's had some coaching in the clutch lanes, the second coach might move over to that position.
Okay, so this group out of here is going to be stopped, right, in this line probably. And this rider coach is going to have to pass down through here and get in position there. What is that? Why is that coaching position on the inside, not on the outside?
Where the brakes are.
Better evaluate.
Yeah, why wouldn't they be out there? Better to evaluate. What are they evaluating from in there?
The application of both brakes for stopping.
Right. Very good. If they're out there where I put that little blue box, can they see both brakes?
Nowhere near as easily.
Some can, so I'm not going to say that
bike,
you can't,
yeah.
right? I've been told the Harleys you absolutely can't, but that might be.
Where you stand and what kind of bike.
Right. So that's the purpose of this coaching position on the inside is here. And I've heard a lot of people say that, well, range management, range awareness is much more difficult on the inside. How does anybody feel about that? How
Well,
do
you're
people handle
trusting the other coach to see what needs to be seen that you're not seeing when you're in that position.
that? Okay, trusting the coach that's behind you. It's always
Also,
good.
you have to pivot. You can't keep your shoes, your boots glued to the pavement. You got to be able to pivot. I do anyways, but I'm kind of like a gerbil out there, so.
Oh, that's a good point. Stay in motion. So while the students are riding down through here, you're probably facing, this way. As they're in front of you, you're facing over here. And as you might turn your head as they begin to go through there, and you watch them exit it. And then as they come through here, you begin to turn back around and face that direction, like all my square boxes. And now you can see them out of your peripheral vision here, and you can get to these guys.
That's what I was going to say. Be on a swivel.
Yeah. So you can effectively do it.
I think one of the pluses is if that rider that's on the inside of the coach rather that's on the inside of the corner, if they monitor the student coming through the corner by swiveling their body to the left instead of to the right, because if they turn to the right, they're going to have their back to the range and maybe miss a lot of stuff. But if they look over their left shoulder as they go around the corner,
there you go.
Kind of almost incorporates a full view of the range as they get their eyes back to the next rider that they're going to call. So this kind of built-in range management that can happen there.
There is, and you've got 5 senses, not just vision. You've got hearing. You can hear where they are, and all of a sudden you hear the engine shut off and things there. So is there any reason they can't be out here, though? I mean, they have structured flexibility. Don't have to be in that position.
If you have that student that keeps missing the shift, you might step out there to get a better look at what their shifty foot's doing on a run, but wouldn't linger there, see what you need to see and then move back to the inside spot.
Or you got people who are already braking well with a rear brake, you may shift over there. There's no reason you don't need to. It's just a recommended spot, but it's a recommended spot for a reason.
And there's no reason you can't move back and forth.
There you go. No reason you can't move back and forth.
One question in the chat is what nonverbal signals are people utilizing and how are they addressing the problem of mirroring correct hand for clutch use?
Good question. Anybody want to answer that? Nothing.
I'm not sure I get the full gist of the question about the clutch use. What are they really asking there?
I think I understand what the question was, because I'll sometimes find myself using the opposite hand if they don't get it right away. I usually use the correct hand to mimic the clutch. I don't know if you can see me. I don't see myself, but
the shadow going.
Is the shadow going? But yeah, I'll if I'm trying to simulate using the clutch hand for the friction zone, for instance, I'll use this and I'll use my right hand for that for simulating using the brake. But sometimes if I see the look of, the wide-eyed look of what are you talking about, then I'll switch it up. Try to be aware of what the students are taking in.
What's the important thing to do up front? Kind of maybe as you're doing the simulated practice is probably the time to do it, right? You're walking through with them in the front of them. As long as you've established a cadence, whether you're going to do mirroring or same hand, as long as you've established that, they should be okay with it. Maybe they're not, depending on the student, right? Okay, so what are the primary objectives of this exercise? Again, what are we doing?
Stopping.
Shifting and stopping, right?
Learn how to shift. This is where the students begin shifting.
Right. So you want them to be able to shift and stop. And, this is the first time they try and stop right there with their front tires between those cones. So it may take you to nudge them a little bit to say, hey, try and do this. Right. And you guys probably know why, because later on it might be important, but it's a good time for them to begin to practice that precision stop and really getting the feel of a stop and the clutch. What are you not coaching in this? What part of this exercise are you really not focusing much on?
The
perimeter turn.
Return.
The perimeter turn, right. So You know, you may remind them of the path of travel and nudge them a little bit to try and stay in it, but that's not your focus. Unless you've already got a bunch of dirt bike riders who already know how to shift and stop, then maybe you can adjust.
I was going to say, unless you have a lot, if you have somebody that's doing very, very, very well, then you want to have them start practicing their perimeter turns for the future.
Yeah. There you go.
Challenge
Okay.
them. Tell them to challenge themselves.
Good. Any other questions on coaching?
Then I see a lot in this exercise is students overestimating how much time they're going to need to actually do all that shifting and stopping, and they finish their stop, 20 feet before the cones. So, I like to tell them, gee, it didn't take you a lot long to do that. So if you can enjoy the ride for a little bit longer next time and wait till you're closer before you start your shifting, your downshift process, and that usually helps.
Right. So I was going to see where it was in I think it's on the range cards here, where it actually talks about trying to keep that speed and hold that speed until they get closer to the stopping mark. So how long should you coach somebody who stopped in front of you at that coaching position?
You only want to coach for about 3 to 5 seconds.
Okay.
Timely tips.
I focus on the most important thing and everything else can come later, one at a time. That way it only takes about 3 seconds.
There you go. So you focus. That's a hard thing for some people to do is they're looking down the range. They just did 16 things wrong. You got to make that decision. Okay, which one of these 16 am I going to coach? So what's our priority?
You want to rank your coaching priorities. So the most important thing of this exercise is stopping and then shifting, and then you might want to coach the clutch control lane. And if they do well enough on those things, they've met the objectives, then you can move on to something like the perimeter turn. But you have to make sure they meet those objectives prior to kind of like going into more detail about things that are not necessary.
There you go. Stay with the basics. All right, something for everybody to keep in mind when you're thinking about coaching. The first thing you coach, and what you said, Sarah, was perfect, is path of travel. And we're going to assume at this point everybody's got the path of travel right. So, but if they're not doing the path of travel right, then that's the first thing you coach. Second thing, procedure. If they don't have the procedure of the exercise right, you got to fix that. And then you get into technique, and that's kind of a gross to fine, as you would say. Gross technique. Are they stopping? Are they putting on the brakes? Are they using both feet? Are they shifting properly? And then you begin to the finer skills of the other nuances that come along with it. So that's kind of your 4 prioritizations in that. And like you said, perfect 3 to 5 seconds, quick. If you coach for too long, how do you know very quickly you've been coaching for too long?
There's a big old line on your
Yeah, right.
range, and there's nobody on the other side of the range.
Yep. The guy's over there throwing things. Hello, I'm over here alone. Yeah. So, and it's important for them to ride this, right? Because they got to practice this a bunch to get it right. Ray, you want to throw anything in there? Or are you good?